What's the haps? I'm John, aka Meroka, and welcome to Spiel. We're in Jade Queen this week, which is Beasties, because, you know, why the devil not? I feel like it's been a little while since I did some Beasties. Probably hasn't been that long, but I feel like I've done everything recently, so meh. So first things first, I would like to extend a huge thank you to all the folks, I don't know how many of them will watch this, but whatever, all the folks who came out to the Button Mash event on Saturday, Button Mash 9, because that was awesome. That was definitely, that's probably one of my favorite events so far. The cosplay was extraordinarily awesome. There were some fantastic ones. Link obviously won that. The guy did a magnificent job dressing up as Link. That was awesome. There was also Edward from the whichever what's it called? I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, I know who he is, but I can't remember the damn name. Assassin's Creed, that's the one. Yes, Edward Conway from Assassin's Creed, and then there was Aiden Pierce from Watch Dogs. They were excellent. And yeah, there's just so many good cosplayers this time. It's fantastic. Good to see everybody making a fantastic effort. And I was obviously Dr. Algernon Krieger from Archer. Nobody got that, but hey-ho, I was happy. So that was that. So yes, thank you to everybody who came out to that, making it a magnificent event. We're already in the planning stages for the next one, so stay tuned to all our social medias and whatnot for more information on those in the near future. We'll be having many more, and we'll be stepping up our game for bigger and better things in the new year, really. I don't think we're going to get one before New Year at this point, to be honest, but come New Year, we shall be looking at new things. So yay, that's cool. That was awesome. So let us do some Spiral Knights news. Yeah! We got a few things to note this week. Firstly, we got a new promos up. We got, is there anything about to eat my face? There's one up there who wants to eat my face, but he's not interested in me right now. Purchase! We have probably on here, we have Catastrophe Returns prize boxes. It's actually first thing on the menu this time instead of being on the middle. That makes a little bit more sense. So these are various cat-themed things, they look a bit like that. There are now some armors that actually match your cat hats, and some, I was reading the forums, there are a few kind of conspiracy theories suggesting that maybe they were the armor that was supposed to go with the cat's hats, but when they updated them this year, but actually Three Rings decided to use them as a promo instead because they look better than the armor they had, so they swapped them around. I don't know, it's a bit conspiracy theory-ish, but could be. I don't know. They do certainly match the gear a lot better. They are to a certain extent, mostly just reskins of the Chroma lines, to be honest. But yeah, you know, it's at least armor that actually does match your hat. If you're looking for something to go with your cat hats from the Catastrophic Confrontation promos, they are there. You can buy them, and they're not. So I think some of the accessories are obviously fairly rare, but the actual armor itself is not massively rare, so they probably should be able to get them for a fairly reasonable price on the auction house. Which way did I come into this room? It was on the right, right? No, it was up here, because there's a party switch. That would explain a lot. Excellent. I know my way around now. Cool, so let's head on this way and see what we can find. Additionally, it is coming up to Halloween. That would suggest that it is possibly coming up to the time of year when we should have a Dark Harvest. And indeed, there was a post by Aphrodite on the forums as part of the Catastrophe prize box promo. She'd say, oh, we've got some new stuff, or was hinting at some new stuff. The team are putting some finishing touches on some something grim, I think was the word she used. So that would imply that there will be new things to see in the Dark Harvest this year, so keep a beady eye on that. Given that, well, Halloween's the 30th, next Wednesday is like the 29th, I think it's gonna have to either go live today or next Wednesday at the very latest. I would very much expect that promo to be today, to be honest. If I'm wrong, well, so be it, I'm wrong. I'm not often wrong, but there you go. So yeah, keep an eye out. I will obviously cover that on this channel if anything happens, as I always tend to do. So there is that. Also, this has been going on for a couple of weeks and I've neglected to mention it. There is a pumpkin carving contest going on the forums. They always do this about this time of year, and this is no exception. So if you are a dab hand with the pumpkin carving, go grab a pumpkin or other similar gourd and carve it into the shape of something you kind of like from Spiral Knights. Light it up, take some pictures, post it on the forums so you can win a bunch of accessories and goodies and things. They're on there to win. If you want some rare accessories, the stuff like the shoulder spikes, whatever they're called, I forget. Anti-personnel spikes, is that what they're called? There's then some tails and things, and yeah, there's a few goodies, monster pockets, you know, the usual drill, the stuff they like to dish out as prizes. So that went well. That went very well. So if you fancy getting your hands on a bunch of those, they're there. Go check that out. They're on the forums, and I guess the contest runs out sometime around Halloween, I would have thought. So get that one done within the next week or so, if you're interested in succeeding at that. Now, which route should I take? I feel like... Oh, no. Okay, fine. Follow me, I don't care. I see shinies up here that should probably be retrieved. Yeah, he's following me. You get stabbed now. That's what you get for following me. So we have a bunch of questions. These are things we do around here. I answer your questions about stuff. So if you have any questions, do leave them in the comments below. Also, I did mention last week I do have one new Patreon supporter, and I should give them a thank you here. This is Pippin is supporting me on Patreon now, so thank you to Pippin. Pippin also asks, Pippin369, who has exactly the same avatar as Pippin on Patreon, so I imagine it's the same person. It seems reasonable to assume that. Asks, hi, I'm playing through the main missions. I currently have 3-star items, Freezing, Vaporize, and Kamarin. I use the bomb to concentrate enemies into small groups, and I can 1-2 hit them with the Kamarin charge. What items should I get next? If you don't mind, I will also concentrate... I will also throw this in with the question from Julopa Ben Bananenplantage, who has an amazing name. It says, I have a question as well. My friend started to play Spiral Knights. When I started playing again, he's now at the stage where you have to craft a bunch of 3-star items. He's not sure which set he should take. He wants to play a tank or a support role with the jobs of a tank, crowd control, having more health, everything that helps him keep people alive. Now he's stuck with the decision, which set would you recommend? Which sounds very much kind of like, is Pippin your friend? It might be. It seems entirely reasonable it could be, but yeah, it seems like they're asking very similar things, I feel, because just by nature of what gear they've chosen. So if you are friends, excellent, that's good news. I'm going to answer them together though, okay? I hope that's okay. I should have brought something shadowy. I did not bring anything shadowy. So the freeze bomb is not really necessarily what I would immediately have thought of as a leveling item, weapon thing, but certainly when you get to the stage of doing Vanaduke, that will make you very popular in groups, because everybody likes a Shiver Mist Buster in Vanaduke. Certainly you should be focusing on whatever gear you do have, getting that to a 5-star level rather than trying to create as many sets as possible. If you try and make loads and loads of sets for every eventuality while leveling, it's just going to be a massive grind. You should... I think most people would just sort of focus on... You're going to have to die, aren't you? Stop healing him, for God's sake. Most people will just focus on getting one fairly decent all-round set. Admittedly, I would have picked 2 different flavors of damage rather than a neutral and a more of a strategic weapon. I know it's elemental, but it's not really useful as an elemental weapon per se. So maybe the neutral weapon and the crowd control it's a different way to go about doing things, certainly. If it works for you, it works for you. If you've got groups, it probably works out alright. I mean, last time I tried leveling anything, see Nimcha, for example, that was mostly solo content. So I probably wouldn't say that was necessarily the best way to go about doing stuff solo, but if you want to be a tank, such as you could tank in Spiral Knights, it's not really... Classes don't really fall into the standard MMO trinity of tank, DPS, and healer, really, in Spiral Knights. It doesn't really work like that. Having extra health is not going to give you an advantageous role in the group structure. It's going to keep you alive longer, but it's not really the same necessity it would be if you were, say, you know, a protection warrior or a... I'm trying to think of something from WildStar. I can't think of anything from WildStar. I don't know. I haven't done enough group content to know what what classes and specs and things really do in WildStar. But yeah, Protection Warrior is, I guess, the good example from World of Warcraft as a tank, because that is something I used to do. That was fun. So you can't really do that. I mean, I guess if you're looking for crowd control recommendations, your vortex bombs are great at that. Shiver Mist is obviously, or the Shiver Mist line is a very good shout in that regard. I do like Polaris for making enemies go where I want, but there's also a lot of people will probably shout at you if you start spamming that a lot in a group. I think there's performance issues with lower end computers with Polaris. I mean, I don't really tend to notice any issues, but my computer is pretty reasonable. So that's never been a ouch thing. If you start going pew 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 all over people's screens, a lot of people will start getting rather choppy frame rates, and they will start shouting at you for that. However, it is very good at making enemies go where you need them to go. So I do like that, if nothing else. So that's the thing. Those are probably... What have I missed here? Oh, I need to go this way. Didn't see that gate open. Yeah, those are probably your main crowd control type things. If you want vortex and freeze, yeah. I suppose the shock and stun bombs are also probably fairly reasonable in that regard, although maybe not so much as freeze, especially against someone like Vanaduke. With Vanaduke, the freeze makes that one a trivial fight, quite frankly, and people will love having you around. You'll be the champion of the party. It'll go fantastically. But yeah, I would say also as far as weapons to actually deal damage with go, I think if you're into the slow weapons, go down the Grand Faust and Divine Avenger route. There's not really a piercing slow weapon. If you're looking for piercing weapons, you really only have the pointy stick options, you know. These ones, why? Okay, I was wondering how I got to that switch. I go around. Not that I need to press the switch. That switch is redundant. Redundant switch. So there you go. I suppose if you wanted bombs, piercing-wise, there's a few piercing bomb options. There's not really much outside. Well, there's Blitz, I suppose, is the go-to piercing gun. There's a couple of others, but they're not widely chosen or used. You could use them if you wanted. I suppose one of the piercing guns, one of the Magnus line does have some stun on it. I suppose if you're wanting to do a bit of crowd control, that might not be a bad option. You can stun enemies from afar so that your teammates can mop them up a bit. That could work. It's just kind of an odd role to try and fit yourself into when it's not really a traditional role within Spiral Knights, I feel. So I think if your freeze enemies with the Shiver Mist works for you, and you then finishing them off with the Kamarin, then I would say just carry on working on that. So again, if you want more tools in that sort of that oeuvre, then yeah, Vortexes and Grand Faust, Divine Avenger at top level. Those are probably the ones you want going to get in the similar vein. Hope that's useful anyway. It's like I say, I just hit people with whatever I feel like works for me. So, I've got a good question from SkySci that I've been hanging on to for a long time, that I've been wanting to answer for a while actually, so I'm going to answer it today. I don't know why I haven't answered it sooner. SkySci asks, there are so many fictional, scary elements of radioactivity that popular culture has produced. Why are nuclear explosions impossible? I'm going to ignore that bit of the question just because of the patent absurdity of it, because nuclear explosions are not impossible. They have happened. We have made them. Humanity has created many nuclear explosions in its time. Most of them have not had particularly great consequences. Go see the guys who live in Hiroshima and Nagasaki and ask them if nuclear explosions are impossible. I think they will tell you otherwise, to be quite honest. Actually, those cities are still standing, right? I know Nagasaki is. No one ever talks about people who live in Hiroshima these days. Nagasaki, people's like, oh yeah, people live in Nagasaki, but no one ever mentions Hiroshima as being a city where people are. I don't know. I'm not really looked into the aftermath of these things, but certainly you can say, yes, there are nuclear explosions. You can see there are nuclear explosions. There are pictures of nuclear explosions going off. There's footage. There's video of nuclear explosions going off. God damn you. Okay, you guys, can I shoot over this wall? I can, right. You guys are going to get pummeled. Get pummeled with Polaris. Yes, there you go. All of you get pummeled. And give me the health back. The second part of the question, which is the more interesting one, is also how or why is it safe or unsafe to stick your hand in a Hadron Collider? Well, there isn't... I like you say a Hadron Collider as if there are multiple. There is only... Well, there's the Large Hadron Collider. There are particle accelerators. There is one Large Hadron Collider. I imagine there are plans to build bigger ones in the future, because they always want to build bigger ones, but at the minute the Large Hadron Collider is, I believe, unless I've completely missed something, the largest particle accelerator. However, there is precedent. I can tell you about the man who put his head inside a particle accelerator and what happened, so that would give us a good frame of reference for your question. So there was a man by the name of Anatoly Petrovich Borgorsky, who was working on a Soviet particle accelerator, the U-70 synchrotron, in 1978. And he was working on a part that had sort of a part that had failed. It sort of something had gone wrong. He's working on fixing it, and indeed the safety mechanisms failed, and he ended up putting his head in the path of the particle beam, which is kind of not something you'd really want to do. He reported feeling no pain. There was no pain involved. He did see a flash brighter than 1,000 suns, which is interestingly also how people would describe most nuclear explosions. So it's got that going for it to tie things in there. And he was taken to a hospital. The doctors assumed he would have received a lethal dose of radiation in doing so. Over the next few days, his face swelled up hugely and started peeling off to a certain extent, which is kind of gross. And yeah, ultimately they kept him in for monitoring. It was like, yeah, he's probably going to die. He's just got a huge shot of radiation straight through his brain. The man's not likely to live through that. He did. He survived. He recovered. He went on to complete his PhD. There was apparently he didn't have any trouble. There was no marked decrease in mental activity or anything. He didn't lose any particular brain function. However, it's like he noticed thinking extensively apparently made him tired. So there's that. He was also deaf in his left ear because it passed through the left side of his head, so he lost all hearing in his left ear and was only left with kind of an annoying noise apparently, internally. And also occasional seizures he had. Oh, and the entire left side of his face was paralyzed as well. So yeah, there's some, tissue damage, nervous damage, that kind of thing. Initial tissue damage which would recover, there's some long-term nervous damage, and yeah, let's say occasionally experience seizures, and he can't hear anything, can't feel anything on the left-hand side of his face. So there's that, yeah, it destroyed a lot of nervous tissue there. So I imagine from that one can extrapolate. Oh, I should also note he is still alive and well to this day. He's doing perfectly fine. So yeah, it's maybe not as fatal as you might imagine. You could probably get away with it okay. So again, if you were to put your hand in one, if one were to take what we know about having done so and put one's hand in a Large Hadron Collider, then one can assume that presumably your hand would swell up considerably. You might start getting some flesh peeling off, that kind of thing. You probably wouldn't actually initially feel anything. You probably wouldn't notice anything at all when you put your hand in the Hadron Collider. I don't know. It seems weird to think that you wouldn't feel anything, but these particles are, subatomic. There's nothing there. There's no mass involved in them, so you wouldn't. It's probably not enough energy initially for it to feel even warm or anything. Probably wouldn't feel a damn thing at all. And then a few days later, your hand would swell up. Bits would start peeling away. It'd be really gross. You'd have a nasty time for a week or so afterwards, maybe a couple of weeks. I don't know how long these things last. I am not a doctor. I've not put my hand in a particle accelerator. And you would probably lose the function of your hand. It would probably paralyze your hand, I would have said, would be the likely outcome of that. But it probably wouldn't kill you. So be careful, but don't assume your life is at risk if you do happen to do so, is my general advice. But then again, like I say, the doctors did assume it probably would have been a fatal dose, so radiation affects different people to different extents. Some people might put their hand in it and might get a fatal dose, I don't know. I don't know how much radiation one would receive from putting one's hand in the particle accelerator. Bear in mind, these particles are going, like, very, very, very close to the speed of light. So there's even for a tiny particle, the particle themselves has a huge amount of energy. I mean, compared to, like a flame or something, just because the flame is so many times bigger, I imagine the flame ultimately has more energy in it, which is why it would cause more immediate damage if you were to, put your hand in a flame or something. Give me that. I want stabby power. So yeah, you'd probably take more immediate damage, but yeah, on a per particle basis... Why am I stabbing that with that sword? That doesn't work. On a per particle basis, yes, the Large Hadron Collider has a ridiculous amount of energy per particle compared to something like a flame. But there's just more particles in the flame that cause you damage in more immediacy. Just to make a comparison that's... I don't even know if that's a relatively apt comparison. I'm just thinking of something that has energy and would cause you damage. Seems like that kind of works. Maybe, we shall see. Anyway, I hope that's has delved into that question to a certain reasonable extent. I kind of liked that question just because there is precedent and I knew about that precedent, so I could talk about it to a certain degree. Mario 583A asks, when are we supposed to get an arcade Redux? Where's part 2? Where's this so-called challenge mode? Yeah, well, I did point out a couple of weeks ago, hey, Trisvolt, woo, I like the music. Yeah, apparently October 7th was the 1-year anniversary of the announcement of the Gunner update and all the things that went with it. That was when we got Nick's updates on what's in development in Spiral Knights. Obviously, that was kind of Nick's pet project. He was the one. He'd taken it upon himself to keep the community updated on the goings-on and the updates and the development cycle of Spiral Knights. And since he's left the team, obviously nobody else has really taken on that mantle. Nobody else has really said, hey, we should give everybody all the updates that Nick used to do. So we don't really know where anything is at the minute. It's presumably coming soon, TM, along with the Gunner update. But who could possibly say? We have heard nothing on that score. So I don't really know. And I mean, I get so many questions that just kind of assume, like, I know the inner workings of the game. It's like, I don't work for 3 Rings or anything. I don't know. I'm not qualified to answer such questions. I mean, there's one, I'm not going to get into it, but I did have a question. Someone said, I've been banned from Spiral Knights, what should I do? It's like, well, take it up with 3 Rings. I am not in a position to get you unbanned or anything. I don't have any favourable status with 3 Rings, just because I make content. They barely know I exist. I think they kind of vaguely do know I exist because they acknowledged that for when I did the Clockworks for Charity live stream last year, which we're almost coming up on the 1-year anniversary of, by the way, but my internet is really not up to capable of doing that again, you know, so it's not going to happen again this year until I get better internet. Which is part of the deal for supporting me on Patreon, so if you want to go support me on Patreon, we could get some more Clockworks for Charity going in the near future. That would be really cool. And just a shameless plug there, why not? Michael from the Button Mash Podcast has got me into a really bad habit of shameless plugs. That's all he does. Also, you should check that out as well, by the way. There'll be a link in the description below. So, yeah, like I say, I guess the Spiral Knights team do recognize that I exist, or are vaguely aware of such things, but... yeah, I've got no favourable status. If you anything relating to development or getting you unbanned or anything, I'm not in a position to help. I'm really not. I'm just a guy who plays Spiral Knights. That's literally all I am. Wait, no. I was trying to break the grass. Not that. Thank you. So yeah, there's that. I don't actually recall any mention of a so-called challenge mode. To be entirely honest with you, I don't know about that. But if you want challenge. The best you have is Danger Missions and Shadow Lairs. Go do those. Those are your challenge modes, quite frankly. If you want more challenge, do them in Proto Gear Solo. There's your challenge. You want challenge? Do Proto Gear Solo Shadow Lair. Have fun with that. Go wild. Probably take some Sparks of Life. I would imagine would be a good strategy. Also Mario asks, what do you think of the Obsidian Edge? Poison is love, poison is life. Goddamn Menders. I will agree on the goddamn Menders part. Yes. I don't object to it in principle. I have my Acheron from before the heat update. So I got it to level 10. So it's a level 10 5-star weapon, it's at full power, totally souped up, amazing awesomeness, whereas my Obsidian Edge is 5-star, but not quite as souped up awesome. That is a 5 mineral, isn't it? A 5? 8 mineral? 5. Why do I call it 5? Actually, is that an 8? And they both look like they might be 8 minerals. I will take the... I'll take the 8 blue for when there are more sprites, which will also come in future updates, right? Right. I have got through... I have not got through all the questions I wanted to do. Although I've got through quite a lot of questions. We are at the terminal, but because it is a relatively easy stratum, I'm also way ahead of time. So, I might do one more floor. You'll get a bonus floor this week. This is the advantage of beastie stratums. Or strata, rather. We might get an extra floor out of this. So, Alexandre Delaporte. To go back to that one. Yeah, it's a good weapon. I'm sure, but it's just not as good as Acheron for me. Firstly, Acheron does more damage, and secondly, I've heated it up further, so my Acheron just naturally does more damage. So, just as a virtue of it being a higher level weapon, so I like my Acheron more. That's all I can say. Do I want any of those? I will take a Polaris recipe. That will probably sell. Yoink! And then we shall head on down. There's another mystery room. Could we get another treasure floor? That would be hilarious. 2 treasure vaults in a row. Come on, treasure! Papa needs a new pair of shining fire crystals. Graveyard! Okay, that's crowns. We've got lots of crowns coming in soon. Alexandre Delport asks, who would you decide to shoot a potato cannon at? David Cameron. Probably. He deserves it. If anybody deserves being shot with a potato cannon, it is David Cameron. So, yes, that. Also, correcting me on the airport scanners from last week, I was kind of joking on that. When they first kind of came out, when they first announced oh, we're going to do these scanners that irradiate you and you go through, there was a lot of furore, controversy, people going, oh my god, you're bombarding us with radiation, have you even tested this in a lab? These will kill everybody, they will give everybody cancer, you don't know the long-term effects. I was kind of playing on that. I don't genuinely think they give people cancer, but yeah, when they first announced them, a lot of people were sort of very reactionary like that. Yeah. I know. Yeah, they give off as much as a microwave, he says, and I'm quite sure that's true. Although one can have as much energy as a microwave and still be ionizing radiation. I don't think it is ionizing radiation, because that would be equivalent to doing it like an X-ray at that point, which actually genuinely would be kind of dangerous. I have not really done my research on this, but I'm going to trust they're not giving people X-rays every time they go through the airport. That would seem reckless and irresponsible. So, yeah. Where are we on my questions? Anik says, Meroka, imagine this. You wake up one day to see that you received a gift of $10,000. I assume that's 10,000. It's spelled 10,000, not with a comma delimiting the 1,000, but with a point. So it actually says $10.000. Yay, $10. A gift of $10 from an unknown source. A gift of 10,000, I presume, dollars from an unknown source, because 10 would be a very underwhelming and anticlimactic question. What would you do? Report it to police or spend the money? What would you spend the money on? I like the assumption there. It's like, would you report it to the police or would you spend the money? What would you spend the money on? You just assumed I would keep the money. Well, let's just assume I'm not the fine, upstanding citizen that I am, and I would obviously report it to the police, but just working on the assumption that I'm not a fine, upstanding citizen, I'd probably get some nice upgrades on this computer thing I would rather dearly like. Let's get a couple of titans in this computer, how about that? Get them SLI'd up. And then I can run everything at wonderful frame rates. Yeah, probably get some nice big monitors as well, because currently these the two I've got are alright, but they're a weird resolution. I've got two 1440 by 900 resolution monitors, which are cool and all, but they are kind of old, and something with a slightly more modern resolution would probably go a long way for me. And yeah, we'd get that goddamn internet upgrade that I've been hankering after for so goddamn long. It would behoove me to do that, I suspect. Those would be good things. And I would probably buy a lot of rather nice beer, and I don't know, I'm not the sort of person who thinks in terms of big things. I can think of a lot of little things I would kind of want in my life if I had the money for them. I don't tend to think in big terms. I'm like, oh, 10,000, I would like this, it's worth like 5,000. It's like, I don't know. Most expensive thing I think I might be interested in getting, maybe a motorbike, I don't know. Not that I can ride a motorbike. I wouldn't mind learning to ride a motorbike, actually. Cars just seem expensive and very, very impractical. Well, they're not impractical, but they're not good for the planet, and... Well, not that motorbikes are a lot better, but they are presumably better. They presumably don't use as much fuel. They're cheaper to buy, cheaper to maintain. The insurance rates around my area are obscene for cars and stuff, especially for someone who's, you know, first time driving. And I can't drive, by the way. So if I were to get a car, the insurance on it would be obnoxious and ridiculous and crippling. Which is half the reason I don't want to learn to drive, because like the cost's just beyond insane. So a motorbike would be a thing I would probably be kind of interested in having in my life. So there's that. If I wanted to pick something expensive out. I presume I can get a motorbike for less than $10,000. That seems like a thing I could do. I presume I can get a car, so I imagine I could get a motorbike. Maybe not some crazy, fancy, souped-up, amazing thing, but I presume I could get something that would be reasonably functional and not a lemon. Lemons are usually referred to like used cars. Can you get a lemon? Can you get a motorbike that's a lemon as well? I don't know. I'm not a vehicle person. Can you tell? Yeah. Anyway. So, computer first and foremost. Computer is love, computer is life. That's some big thing in my life that needs some care and attention. Queen Superior asks, what do you think of Spotter Spark? Which is a bizarre question, I feel. Spotter Spark, well, I never met the man to any great extent. Well, I did do those missions when they first came out, and he was just one of the mini little gremlins when I first met him. And I know he quickly, a couple of weeks later, got a redesign where there was like, he's not just a big version of the little gremlins. But I don't think I ever went and looked back to see what he looked like, so honestly I don't really know what he looks like. And he's just another boss to me. I don't really hold him in much high regard. I don't think, oh yes, I have a great deal of respect for that man. He's a man of great acclaim. No, it's just a gremlin. Don't know. Oh, this is a good place to wait and talk at the end of a level, isn't it? Place where all the ghoulies are coming for me. Stay down. Anyway, let's wrap things up there, because I'm now over the half-hour mark, and I've answered all the things I wanted to answer. So if you have any questions, do leave them in the comments below. Much appreciated. Always good to have things to talk about. Don't forget to check out the Button Mash podcast, linked below, and also don't forget to check out my Patreon campaign, which will be linked in the outro in just a hot second. All the support you can give helps me out a whole bunch, and maybe we can get to more content and more live streams and things, because those would be awesome things to do. But yes, thank you very much for watching. You've been a fantastic audience as always. I've been Meroka, this has been Spiel, and I shall see you next time.